Hey Dr. Matthews, it's Rick Altenberg, and this is my video for Religion 331, my annotated bibliography assignment. For my assignment, I chose to study the Ku Klux Klan in the 1920s, focusing on the realm of religious intolerance, obviously, because of the class, and rather than racial intolerance. I wanted to study its prominence in American culture, as well as how people viewed the Ku Klux Klan, as well as its members itself. In other words, I wanted to study whether the Klansmen viewed themselves as unabashedly bigoted, or if they justified their actions by saying that they were protecting Protestantism. So some of my sources were about the Missouri Jewish press and how they actively vocalized against the Ku Klux Klan in Missouri, or the Catholic University of Dayton and how students on that campus took action against the Klan. And then other ones were about how the Klan had its reach into all aspects of American culture, including newspaper and film and radio, and it was a lot more ingrained in American culture than I had realized, which is really scary because it became almost normalized in the 1920s to be a part of the Ku Klux Klan. And to think that in a modern context is just, it's mind-blowing. So anyway, in my study, I found a few assignments here. One was about the women in the 1920s in the Ku Klux Klan, and how they were different from the men, but still sort of part of the same organization. They had different roles than the men. They they were in charge of organizing social events and parades and concerts, but they kind of geared their work towards protecting family values and protecting women and children. And in this way, they justified their hatred of Jews and Catholics because they thought they were doing right. They thought they were protecting the Protestant American way of life for the sake of their children and their families. Another article that I found really interesting was the baseball article, Invisible Umpires. So baseball is seen as the quintessential American sport, and the Ku Klux Klan, like many other organizations during this time, founded their own sandlot teams to sponsor and for Klansmen to play on. And what I found really interesting was that Klan baseball teams not only played against each other, but they played against Jewish, Catholic, and African American teams in order to try to sway public opinion away from the Klan being demonized as villains and hooded monsters to friendly Protestants that simply had a different view of how American life should be. And this also goes to show just how normalized the Ku Klux Klan became within American society, that you had Klan-sponsored baseball teams playing against, the Knights of Columbus or the African-American team from Kansas. It was just mind-blowing to read this kind of stuff, because I had no idea that the Ku Klux Klan was so inherently tied to American culture, and it still is in a lot of ways. The Ku Klux Klan's legacy in a lot of these social institutions, for example, film. They had a lot of work in film, and they wanted to censor films in order to better fit their values for morality. So they helped establish a lot of the censorship guidelines in the United States that are still enacted today in the film industry. So it was really interesting stuff to read on, and I hope you enjoy reading about it in my annotated bibliography. Thank you.